Welcome back to Crypto Meets AI. Barry here with an update for you. Do me a favor, friends. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment down below. It really does help with that algorithm. Now let's get into this. We got Bitcoin sitting just over 111,000. Ethereum still under just 4,300. XRP is up to 295. We're up 6% on the 7-day and almost 3% on the 24-hour. Solana is at 213. We're up almost 7% on the 7-day and up 3% on the 24-hour. Cardano sitting at 86 cents. It's up 4% on the 24-hour and up 7% on the 7-day. Sui is up 3% on the 24-hour at 347 and about 7% on the 7-day. All these utility coins are mirroring each other pretty well. Ripple has tier 1 banks as partners because XRP will be classified as a tier 1 by the BIS. You read that right. XRP will be a tier 1 asset alongside gold. Most XRP holders are not ready for what is coming for XRP. And this is coming from Lord Belgrave. He has some very interesting reads of late. Let's dig in and go down this rabbit hole. I'm going to tell you something you probably never even thought about. In 2015, while headlines screamed about Portugal's banking collapse and bailouts, European banks were already piloting Ripple and XRP under NDA. Banco Espírito Santo's fall was not just a crisis. It was the pretext for the testing of the new financial rails. The collapse of Banco Espírito Santo, BIS. In mid-2014, the BIS, Portugal's second largest bank, reported losses of $3.6 billion. By 2015, the state stepped in, creating Novo Banco with $4.9 billion from Portugal's Bank Resolution Fund. The fragility of the cross-border liquidity flows in Europe was laid bare. This was a continental warning shot. Correspondent banking chains couldn't absorb shocks anymore. What was happening in parallel? In the same year, Santander InnoVentures announced its partnership with Ripple. Not retail crypto hype, not speculative chatter. It was framed internally as a liquidity corridor evaluation aligned with Basel III liquidity standards. Yes, that was the exact phrasing I saw and the confidential deck. The technical evidence from the NDAs, liquidity corridor simulations, RippleNet tested for Euro BRL and Euro GBP corridors, modeled against Basel III liquidity coverage ratios, LCR, settlement latency tests. XRP bridge settlement achieved T+0 netting versus T+2 in legacy RTGS simulations. Stress scenarios. Ripple was benchmarked under distressed sovereign spreads, Portugal and Greece, to prove it could route liquidity neutrally. This was not exploration, it was compliance driven. The vocabulary of the agreements tells the story. Protocol agnostic bridge assets equals XRP. Cross-border liquidity buffers compliant with the NSFR. Ripple corridors meeting Basel standards. Atomic settlement across distressed jurisdictions equals what XRP was designed to do. This was hidden in plain sight, disguised as innovation funding. Why Santander? Deep Eurozone exposure, Latin American dominance, especially Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina, reliance on cross-currency corridors that were fragile under Basel III. If you wanted to test XRP as a global liquidity rail, Santander was the perfect proxy. The conspiracy nobody talks about. Was the fall of the BES just a mismanagement, or was it a controlled sacrifice to justify restructuring Europe's cross-border liquidity framework? Notice the moment the BES collapsed, Ripple pilots in Europe began accelerating. Coincidence? I don't think so. And we all know I do not believe in coincidence. Additional signs I've seen. 2015 Santander internal memo refers to Ripple as critical in Basel III liquidity efficiency modeling. 2016 European Banking Authority draft discusses settlement frameworks outside correspondent models. Ripple's fingerprints are all over that language. Private Santander Ripple workshop notes. Trial corridors with the XRP were run quietly under NDA while the public narrative was remittance efficiency. Understand the sequencing. 2014 Banco Espírito Santo collapse exposes systemic fragility. 2015 bailouts restructure Portuguese banks under new liquidity mandates. 2015 Santander InnoVentures partners with Ripple under NDAs referring Basel III. Crisis, regulation, solution. Most people think Ripple's European entry was about payments innovation. In truth, it was about building Basel-compliant liquidity corridors to replace a system already collapsing. The public saw austerity, the banks saw opportunity, and Ripple was at the table. I will reveal more excerpts from these NDAs, definitions, clauses, and access referencing Basel III directly. It will become clear that 2015 was not a year of crypto experiments. It was the year banks began transitioning liquidity into neutral programmable corridors. XRP, baby. And if you found this information valuable, helpful, or hell, even entertaining, please share, like, subscribe, and comment down below. One of the biggest hurdles Ripple, not the XRP ledger, has is building systems that talk to 1,000 of disparate legacy systems. This is why Ripple was one of the very early advocates of ISO 222, as it provided a true system agnostic interface between financial systems. And now that all the banks and major institutions have, or will adopt it, Ripple is in an excellent position to offer its services. This is what is called a mega program of work, and Ripple is slowly architecting over decades a solution that will transform humankind throughout the next century. It's hard work, it's complex, and the back-end moving parts are many. There is no single milestone that is going to exponentially grow something, but a series of planned events and announcements that are aligned with the objectives of the mega program. This phase is called adoption. It's the storming and forming, fleshing out regulatory compliance challenges, scaling demand, and establishing trust. After adoption, we will enter growth. Once the scaffolds are in place, we will target critical mass, majority adoption. And then there will be an acquisition, which will be when Ripple either fully or partially becomes fully owned by thousands of members banks, much like SWIFT. That's my take. It's my own opinion. Ripple XRP US patent number 10902-416 and US patent number 11998-003. Make XRP the undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. When Chainlink Maxi's claim Link can do what XRP does, I laugh. US patent number 10902-416 by Schwartz in 1988 sets XRP apart from any other crypto. The patent is for ODL, on-demand liquidity, that nobody can copy. The world needs XRP. Trust-based payment system, U.S. patent number 11998-003, awarded in July of 2025. This patent is for a blockchain-based cross-border payment system. It outlines a method for instant transaction that relies on trusted nodes within the Ripple network rather than requiring full consensus from the entire blockchain. This approach increases the speed and scalability of transactions, directly challenging legacy payment systems like SWIFT. Yes, like SWIFT. Trust me, secure your XRP and XLM on cold wallets and just chill. The four horsemen will make history. And David just confirmed that XRP as a global currency. K plus is inevitable. Our entire monetary system is broken. XRP is the asset to fix it. I have given you entire summary to this broken system below. XRP is the chosen one, and I'm not joking when I say XRP to 100K. Its sole purpose is to be the global reserve currency. It's hard to believe in our technological age, but there was once a time in England when, for 600 years before banks, money was counted on tally sticks. These perfectly forgery-proof sticks of wood were split lengthwise for two parties to keep track of the financial transactions, mostly taxes, now largely lost to history. 1694, they shifted away from the system in England. A grand experiment was initiated. What if money was converted from something of value to a future obligation, a promise to pay? Blessed by the government, the world would never be the same again. War creates debts. Empires cost money, and discipline must be maintained among subjects. From 1694 to 1763, England accumulated massive debt, fighting numerous conflicts. Between 1756 and 1763 alone, the nation doubled its debt from 75 million to 150 million. Founding of the modern system. The experiment succeeded. Today, with very few exceptions, the world operates on a promise-to-pay system. Money issued as debt created from nothing out of thin air. The banks have convinced the world to accept this unpayable debt, an unfunded system. The Federal Reserve System, established in 1913, was a masterclass financial scheme, an enigma so diabolical and obscure that for over a century it was thwarted attempts to decipher its destructive code. The founding fathers of this deception knew their plan was the perfect formula to mislead and compromise politicians, handing over the keys to the magic kingdom of wealth creation. The plan was to create a Ponzi scheme at the highest level, a never-ending cycle of debt and interest to trap the American people in a life of servitude, stripping the government of its sacred duty to coin money and regulate its value. Between 1929 and 1933, 10,000 U.S. banks failed. The Federal Reserve flunked its first test to backstop the fractional reserve banking system, leading to bankruptcy and unemployment for millions of Americans. For the banking cartel, it was an opportunity, the greatest consolidation of wealth in human history. By any means necessary is the model of the banking world, where the extraction of wealth is the game. Lending money created from nothing to buy assets on margin is the perfect application of this principle. A bait-and-switch margin call is all that they needed to scoop up assets for pennies on the dollar. The boom and bust cycle, the favorite tool of the banking cartel. It's hard for people to believe. It defies description and imagination, but our money is issued as debt, mathematically unpayable with interest. The system, created in 1913, was rigged by the big banks from the start, designed to be the reset when it grinds the economy to a halt, when taxes and debt services overwhelm the ability to pay. The trap had been set, so let's flip the tables on the bank. The framers of the Federal Reserve aimed to so mass the creation of money that the vast majority of people would never understand how they were being cheated. The power to create an infinite supply of interest-bearing money from nothing, backed by debt. In theory, their crime of ever-increasing unpayable debt would never be discovered. Yes, we now have the technology to create a system that functions as a debt and interest-free money ledger. XRP, forever freeing humanity from the fractional reserve banking scheme dreamed up in medieval times. This creates an asset-backed currency where the people can once again become the owners of their life, liberty, and property, a currency structure that eliminates theft and corruption by the oligarchy. The XRP ledger. We will remain more committed than ever to the simple goal of making XRP the world's reserve digital currency. And last up, some Zebek news. Over the past few days, Zebek participated in high-profile events and policy discussions on the future of stablecoins and payment, including speaking at the Cambridge International Symposium on Economic Crime. We're focused on building public confidence and demonstrating our compliance leadership through Zebek's innovation technology, while working alongside policymakers and industry leaders. Well, that's what I have for you folks. Until next time, stay savvy, stay stacking, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and comment down below. And if you want more crypto deep dives, check out our videos right here on Crypto Meets AI. Thank you for watching. Remember to always do your own research. This is not financial advice.